watch the wildlife. It is absolutely fantastic. So I just plead that you give these guys what they need to do what they need to do there to keep a revenue stream coming in so that we can maintain that budget that the Parks and Recreation needs so that they can support all of the programs, not just the golf courses. But that's a very important stream for you guys. So with that said, thank you all very much for hearing me out, and thank you guys back here. Y'all do one hell of a job.
Mr. Bruno, what business are you in?
I'm in the transportation business. We haul personnel to and from docks and heliports. The name is Charters. Anybody need a ride? Please let me know. Times have been really tight for us. I'm not a hunter and I'm not a fisherman, and every last cent of my entertainment dollar that I budget myself, which has not been much over the last 2 years, goes to the golf course.
And y'all in Broussard?
We are in Broussard, yes, sir.
All right. I might just need a ride. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank y'all very much.
Yeah, with my other job. Next green card, please.
Mr. Chairman, the final speaker is Joe Bernos.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I wanted to clarify something for the gentleman. I want to make sure he knows that none of the money from the golf courses goes to fund the other recreation activities. The money earned by the golf courses stays and operates those golf course funds. It's just a part of the recreation department.
Got you. Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Joe?
Hi, I'd like to speak on behalf of Mo Park. We're here as, we run a facility over there in partnership with Parks and Recreation on the cart track that's there in Lafayette. We work off a board of members. We have 6 board members and stuff that help facilitate and take care of that part of the facility at Mo Park. There's a few notes, you know, we have probably 50 members in that. We probably have all of his volunteers and stuff. Everything that comes pretty much out of the parks is paid for by memberships and events that we put on and stuff. We'll have events probably once a month, sometimes twice a month and stuff that we have. We've probably, I don't know, in the neighborhood of probably 400 or 500 hours of community service between the people that's members and stuff. We just want to thank everybody, you know, that we continuously try to improve everything that we do at the park. We want to thank Parks and Commission and everybody for help supporting us. It means a lot to us. You know, we have a lot of kids that come out and we race karts, they ride motorcycles on the track and stuff. And it's fun to watch. It's very family oriented. You know, it's not one of these big dog-eat-dog worlds and stuff. It's where people come out and enjoy themselves. You know, we'll sit there and barbecue with the family. We'll do different things. Just to say, we're just in private donations between all the members of the track and stuff. We've probably donated in the neighborhood of probably $30,000 or $40,000 just by our members and that to put back into the facility. You know, we continuously make improvements to it and stuff. We just want to thank y'all for all your support that you give us and stuff, and hopefully continue. I mean, this is a gym. This place has been there since 1972, and everybody supported it, but it's really not known. We starting to get the word out to where people's coming from different parts of the state. They're coming from Mississippi, they're coming from Texas and everything to race our facility. So we're trying to promote it more and trying to get more involved. Right now, our next big project is trying to put in a timing system. We're actually trying to get donations, and club members always donate money at the end of the races and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's pretty pricey. It's about $10,000 to put this system in. So hopefully we're about halfway there. We can continue to grow this and that. And down the line, we hope to have it to where we could have like an arrive and drive for kids and stuff like that, that they can come out and just drive and learn how to work on them, learn how to race, good sportsmanship, you know, and overall to keep them off of the streets and keep them in a contained facility to where they can learn how to do this, learn how to drive and be better drivers as they get older. You know, our number one thing is sportsmanship and how they learn to accept wins and defeats, both. You know, so that's what we're after. Like I said, we're in the process also right now of putting an RC track that where people come race the RCs at the facility and stuff. Greg's been very supportive of us and helped us very much with it. So we're hoping to have that open this fall. We've had a lot of donations and stuff. We have a lot of interest from hobby shops and stuff like that sell RC cars and stuff to come out there. They say they have a group of people we can't wait till we get it done. So, but I really want to thank Parks and Commission, everybody for all the support that you've given us. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Kong?
Before we move on to the next budget review item, I just wanted to reinforce what Jay mentioned earlier regarding property taxes, especially as it applies to recreation. Kevin, Jay, Kenneth, and I serve on a committee looking at property taxes, and almost every instance is inadequate to meet the needs, but we've never really focused on the smaller items, and this one is a good example. We have a little bit over $10 million in the recreation fund. A city property tax, which only brings in 28% of the total dollars needed. So we're dipping into the city general fund for 38% of the recreation fund. That's a good, strong example of inadequate property taxes to fund very basic needs for the city of Lafayette and by extension to the parish of Lafayette. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and that was our last green card? Okay, thank you very much. Again, just a note and a reminder, there were a number of requests requested for a wrap-up or follow-up. We ask that the department, we respectfully ask that you address those as soon as you possibly can. Get those out to the clerk and to those members who made those requests, and members in return to the department and to finance. Once you get those requests, if what you have asked for has been satisfactory, please make them aware of that so that they could take that off of their radar and their to-do list as they, the budget process as it goes on. It gets a little bit more convoluted, if you would. So
And Mr.
that's
Chairman,
going to, yes, ma'am.
per your instruction, I did provide the budgeting department with copies of all the requests.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And the department has them also? Great. She'll get them to, okay, great. All right. So that concludes Parks and Recreation. Thank you all very much. We're going to now move to community development. That's going to start on page 193. We ask those responsible to come forward. We're going to let the transition take place just for a second.
I have a chart. The community,
One second, Laura.
oh, sure.
Veronica, on the request, of course, provided to all members, although it can't, make sure the member who requested it is given it, directly, but make sure all members are copied on everything. Okay. If one of you all want, we have multiple mics, unless it's just gonna be one person speaking, if y'all wanna use both mics at the appropriate time, feel free to do so, but Ms. Toops?
The CD department is funded through several different funds. You can see the revenue sources on the pie chart that you have there. For instance, the Science Museum generates $98,000. It costs a lot more than $98,000, but that revenue is the amount of money that comes from the Science Museum. You'll see that the Hyman Performing Arts Center fund provides a little over $2 million. The City General Fund provides 51% of the budget. That's $3.1 million. And the Parish General Fund provides about $200,000. The department is not asking for any changes in positions in this proposed budget. You will see a slight increase in the proposed budget. It's increasing 8%. It's due to several different line items that you'll see as we go through the budget. there is an increase in uninsured losses, and then there's some increases in some things going on at the Hyman Performing Arts Center, which I believe will have a corresponding increase in revenue, so it wouldn't be an overall increase in expenditures.
All right. Just want to remind members and those who are watching that Dr. Nelson is unable to be with us today. She do have a couple of division heads and other staff members who are here to address issues, as you could see, who's more than capable to address these issues. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor to the managers if you had any opening comments or statements that you wanted to put on the record before we get started with the review.
Okay. My name is Connie Ozan. I'm the Director's Executive Secretary. Amy DeVille is here with me. She's the Human Services Manager. And Brian McGrath, he's the Manager of Arts and Culture. And as you said, she's not here with us today. But if there are any questions that we cannot answer, she will address them on Monday upon her arrival.
Thank you. All right. So with that said, members, we're on page 193. We're going to start on page 193, starting off with the administration. Mr. Terrio?
Connie and Ms. Toops, both of you, I know each year that community development receives a lot of money through grants and things like that. Do we have a total amount? Because as you mentioned, I think in a previous budget meeting, Ms. Toops, that the grants are handled differently and that it's not included in the actual income expense accounts of community development. Could you elaborate on that?
We don't budget in the proposed budget for grants. When those grants are awarded, we come back to you with a budget amendment for that. And I don't have a total of grants, but we can certainly get you that information,
Okay.
some historical information.
If you don't mind. Also on,
Mr. Terrio, just for the record, so we could keep up, she offered to give you something you say if you don't mind, but for the clerk's clarity, are you requesting something specific that you want Ms. Toops to provide you so they could be able to follow up on your behalf?
yeah, if you don't mind, provide the council with that information, the total amount of the funds coming in, whether they be grant and other funds like that, to give the council an idea of that, if you don't mind.
Well, all the other funds would be included in the budget, just the grant funds wouldn't
The
be.
grant. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Got this. Thank you.
Got it. Line item 101-8100, 76025-0. This is external appropriations for arts and culture grants, $129,000 basically. What is that specifically used for?
The external
Lauren?
agencies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The external agency application process has begun July the 26th, and it's going to run through August the 31st. Different organizations, they apply for grants.
Now, I'm familiar with that, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Ms. Connie, but you see, I noticed we have this here. This is listed as the Arts and Culture Grant, but underneath is the external appropriations for social services. That is the NGOs and things we talked about a long time ago. But this particular one, the arts and culture, what is that $130,000 or $129,000 used for?
Sir, I don't have an answer to that. You
have
can
anything?
address that to Dr. Nelson when she comes on Monday.
Do y'all have it?
I know that this program runs through the CD department, and Dr. Nelson will know most of the details. I know that there is an application process, how it's handled, if it's handled like the social service grants, I'm really not sure. But you may recall, these amounts have always been in the budget. Last year, we cut the parish portion because the parish general fund didn't have it. So this would just be the city's portion.
For Mr. Terrio's purpose, on that particular line item, 76025-0, put in an official request that Dr. Nelson provide back to the council the specific grantees or agencies that are in receipt of money out of this line item.
Sure thing.
That satisfied that, Mr. Terry?
That's good for that line item. Now I'm
Right,
going.
just on that one.
Yep. Now, the second line item, thank you, Mr. Boudreaux, the one underneath, the 76040, external appropriate Acadiana Center for the Arts is $365,000. What specifically is that used for?
That is an amount of money that we usually budget for the ACA. You know, they occupy a building that is owned by the city, and we usually grant them that money every year to help take care of our building.
So that's the money used for O&M, basically?
It could be used for O&M, it could be used for capital improvements.
Because I know about 4 or 5 years ago, it used to be $250,000, and then it's increased now to $365,000.
It was 285 and it went up in 2016.
Okay. So this can be used for a broad range of maintenance for the center that LCG owns, is what you're saying?
I don't know all the details. That would be another one for Dr. Nelson. I just kind of know the basics of it.
Okay, Mr. Boudreaux, if you don't mind, sir, could we extend the same request as we did of the previous
Absolutely.
line item?
Absolutely. Line item 76040, appropriations for Acadiana Center for the Arts, detailed line item for what the expenditures are through the Acadiana Center for the Arts. And just as a record, the 365 falls a little bit under our cap of 500. It was 500 or greater. They would have been mandated to send
Right.
it to us, but we asked for that at this time.
And that's all I have for now, sir.
Okay, still on 193, court services probation. Also top of 194, court services and probation. $194 housing. Also top of 195. Y'all don't have questions when they got zeros. Middle of the page, demolition. Relocation. Of course, this is all through the housing programs. Urban infill, finishing up 195. We're going to start with human services at the bottom of 195 and half of 196. Human Services Division, start with the counseling services. Okay, bottom of 196, the senior center. Top of 197, senior center. Mr. Cohn?
Mr. Chair, I think that perhaps Carly Amlabar could provide some additional information on the senior center project, since Shanae is not present.
Have a question on one of them, or you needed something on?
I'd like a little bit more information.
Hold on, let me bring you back up. Go ahead.
I'd like a little bit more information on that particular project, because I'm in that age group. I may need the facilities.
Got it. And I'll make sure we get that to you, but just for you all to know, that was identified in the Evangeline Corridor Initiative work as one of the key catalyst projects that the neighborhood was excited about as well. So Shanae and I have been working together on that one.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. You gonna be housed there, Bruce?
My portable office.
middle of 197. State federal programs projects. Yeah, bottom of 190, oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Lewis?
Yes, 162-8157-72-600 transportation. I know that we leaving out the transportation now, zero out.
It's a grant. We don't budget for any grants in this budget. When the grant is approved, we come back to you with a budget amendment.
Okay, thank you.
$198. Bottom of 198. Okay, 199, page 199. Mr. Terrio?
101-8166-70907-0 contractual services. We're showing a budget 16-17 at 25. The actual is 25 for April. Projected 16-17 was 25. Now we zeroed it out. Now, don't get me wrong. I like it whenever contractual services go from 25,000 to zero, but what contractual service went away for that amount?
I have the brief explanation on it. This was a one-time payment for Believe Entertainment, so it's not a repetitive cost.
Do we normally put contractual services for a one-time payment, though?
Oh, yeah, those can come up for various reasons. You might have a special program going on one year that's, you don't plan on
So if
doing
you know it
it.
ahead of time and it's coming in, you're going to have a one-time pay, then you can go ahead and budget it. And Believe is, what was that?
So I had the very brief explanation of that. We can check, I don't know if these guys have any more details on it, but if they don't, we can add that to Dr. Nelson's list.
No, I'll pass. I'll pass.
Might mess around, put it back in, huh?
Yeah, if I need to later on, but I'll pass for now. Thank you.
Yeah. Bottom of the page, line item 52,000, legal fees. I know our legal fees come in somewhat estranged at times based on how we bill, but are we using this item any or what?
Is that 162, 8166?
Yes, ma'am.
That's another grant. And so we wouldn't budget any of that grant? You wanting a current balance for this year?
No, so it is being utilized.
Oh,
So
You
you're
have a
using
current
grant
balance
monies
for
to
this
pay
year?
legal, and these are in-house legal fees? We're able to use a grant to pay some of our in-house legal fees is what we're doing?
no, this would have to be legal fees associated with the grant program.
Okay. So they hiring a lawyer within the grant for some reason?
Hold on one second and we'll pull. $162. $52,000. 1,200 here.
But yeah, right.
About in the past. They haven't spent any this year.
Okay, just, for the record, just have Dr. Nelson provide us with an update. I'm sure it's probably something unique if it's within a grant, but I saw the previous year, we budgeted at the same amount, but the previous year there wasn't anything yet, so just check on it. So for the record, 52,000 under 16280, 166, just an update from us, from myself and
Sure
the
thing.
rest of the council, please. Okay, we're gonna move to page 200, top of 200. And as you could see, quite a bit of community development is grants, so like she said, that's why they have so many amendments that come during the course of the year as the grants start to get funded. But then there are some areas that we're about to go into that funding is actually here initially. So let's move to arts and culture, page 200, bottom of page 200, arts and culture. Bottom of 200 and 201 Hyman Performing Arts Center. Mr. Terrio?
Ms. Toops, following up on what you said earlier in dealing with the Harmon Performing Arts Center, got a number of questions here. I think on the 50100-0 temporary employees, there's an increase there. There's also an increase on 70907-0 contractual services.
Let's do them one at a time, Mr. Terrio.
Yeah.
Can y'all address his temporary
Temporary
employees?
employees,
please?
we're looking at a 9% increase.
Temporary employees, Brian McGrath, Arts and Culture Manager. The temporary employees were requesting a little bit extra money because we're having an increased difficulty hiring and keeping part-time employees. We're having less volunteers and we have to make up for it to make operations work because we rely heavily on event labor.
So these are all part-time employees?
Correct. Contractual services. We're asking for $25,000 because our intent is to hire a branding and advertising company.
Well, hang on a second, I didn't
sorry.
mean to cut you off. The 70907-0 contractual services is requesting $65,000. That's a 62% increase.
From 40, correct.
From projected, right.
The difference is we're requesting the extra money is to hire a branding and advertising company to help develop a sponsorship program. Because in turn, that will actually create a different or an extra source of revenue for the Hyman Center.
So-
Because we currently have none as far as sponsorships.
So this $25,000 for a new branding thing is almost like the $25,000 Believe project we had earlier?
Correct. It's a one-time fee.
We've given $25,000 to a lot of people for branding and for just little programs. Let's see. And also underneath 70944 and 70946, we're looking at dramatic increases in production expense, which, let's start with that one first.
These are our revenue, excuse me.
While he's looking,
Our revenue expense accounts, and our production's going up due to our, this is all from shows booked at the Hyman Center. And we're estimating our production to go up because of our fee schedule change that's going to happen in January. So this will be extra that we'll have coming in. And the promoters is just on the books right now, we have extra or more shows than this time last year.
what's the actual at this time, Ms. Toops? We're showing a request of $508,000, and at the end of April, basically May 1st, they had only used $100,000, which was a fifth. of what they're requesting.
Well, from my standpoint, our calendar is very fluid, and we have different clients that come and go as that goes on. But at the time, we calculate what our holds and our confirmed bookings. And these are pass-through accounts, so
280,000. And promoters is 577,000. Is that a direct revenue expense match?
No, it's not exact.
Okay.
But based on your ticket sales, you pay a certain amount to actually promote.
correct.
So that's why.
The tickets go through that account.
So you'll see a corresponding, not a dollar for dollar, but you'll see a corresponding increase in revenue. The more productions you have, the more revenue you collect. So it might not be dollar for dollar, but it'll be close. So if he ends up not having as many productions as he's planning, he won't move that money around somewhere else and spend it. He'll just have less productions and less revenue coming in.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Toops, under 74,000-204, we have the internal appropriations, IPAC fund, HPAAC fund. Now, that one right there is an internal appropriations. So dealing with like the production and promoters expense, and correct me, I'm not familiar with the internal fund, but what funds would actually go into the internal fund for HPACC?
If you don't mind, I'm going to let Melinda go ahead and cover that, because she handles all the credit card billings, and I know what ends up happening is the productions happen in one fund, and then the money that's left over goes into the operating fund. Is that?
So what you're looking at is Fund 205, which is.
Melinda, the recording ain't gonna pick you up.
So what you're looking at is Fund 205, which is the Hyman Performing Arts Fund, which holds all of the costs and the revenues for its productions or shows. And at the end of the year after the audit, any additional monies that are left over are transferred into 204, Fund 204, which is the Hyman Performing Arts Fund for its operations, its salaries and maintenance of the building, et cetera.
Okay, so taking your explanation, what you're showing here then is that the Hyman Performing Arts didn't use in 15-16 almost 200,000, which went back into their general fund more or less. And then 16-17, we showed $337,000 went back into their fund?
That's determined at the end of the year through the audit process, so we don't know what that's going to be for 16, 17.
So I guess my question here is that if we got almost $340,000 that was left over from a previous year based on the audit.
No, sir. At the end of the year, at the end of 15, 16, when the year was finally over, $196,861 was left. And so that money was transferred into the operating fund to go against, to help cover the salaries that were paid from that fund. So we don't know what 16, 17 will be until probably sometime January.
But yet you're projecting a proposed on 17-18 is 234.
Yes.
So you don't know what 16-17 is, but you're going to project or propose a 17-18,
Yes.
which doesn't make really any sense because
It's based on their budgeted revenues and expenditures.
And the number of shows. It's also based on the number of performances they have scheduled and what they expect they will make netted after they pay the promoter and all of the show's expenses, what they take, it's the net of ticket sales, so that's what they're projecting that they'll be able to transfer.
So for budgetary purposes, you project your number based on number of shows in prior activity. At the end of the year, you get audited, and then you actually have your real number that you put into the budget from the previous year.
Yes, sir.
Right, and it's an account, you may have heard us in the past refer to some accounts as a balancing point. This is one of those accounts that's a balancing point. We take the revenues, expenders, whatever is left is what we estimate will go into the other fund, to the operating fund.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
That's why y'all got them awards y'all showed us twice the other night.
Might have it again on today's.
Science Museum, bottom of 201. Top of 202, Science Museum. Nature Station, 202. Top of 203, Nature Station. Middle 203, Maintenance. Mr. Terrio?
Line item 66,000-0, the janitorial supplies have gone up almost 100%. Another one of the small numbers is 20,500, but you were showing that May 1st, roughly only using $4,000.
It's a lot less than that right now. What we're asking for is, after we were a shelter from the flood, our floors and everything took quite a beating. And we tried to restore it ourselves, but not to the point where we need it. So we're requesting this as a one-time $10,000 to basically strip and wax the entire facility as far as the convention center goes, so we can get back and protect our terrazzo floors and get back to being presentable.
Okay, would that also apply for the line item right above, the 63,000 equipment maintenance?
The equipment maintenance, actually our warranty for our chillers expired this past month, and it was recommended that we request the money to get a maintenance program to cover them.
Just for the heck of it, on the 66,000-0, what's the actual on that right now? Not that I don't trust you, sir.
6,100.
So 6,100 of 20,400. When are you guys planning on doing the stripping and cleaning?
When we have enough money to bid it out.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Bottom of 203. WIOA Program Administration. And the grant, top of 204. Training program, bottom of 204. Grant. And top of 205. We'll go to Capital, page 259. Mr. Y'all trigger happy. Mr. Lewis.
Yes, we still on 259, correct?
Yes, sir.
Sidewalk projects.
No, we're just looking at number 93 and
93?
94.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they're different, I'm sorry, this area has
Okay.
multiple capital, different departments. I don't have them numbered, but I think actually 92 also, right? Some stuff at 92 also, 92, 93,
Yes, sir.
all under CD. Again, 94. You want to look at 93, 94, and then we'll move over.
They'll actually be repeated in the next section
Right.
also.
Mr., you want to pass on that? Okay. Then we will go to page 284. Again, we got capital, it kind of spreads out depending on funding sources and who's on first. 284, you could see at the bottom of the page, starting with community development. And as she indicated, is going to repeat, but you certainly have a clear picture. 284, 285, and the very top of 286. Okay, seeing no questions, we're going to move to the Manning table. Page 310. CD starts on 310, right where you left off. Starts with the administration, a little above half the page. $311. And half of 312. Okay, seeing no questions, any closing, Mr. Comp?
One quick question, the old planetarium, what's the status on that? I know we have money to demolish it. What's the status?
It's actually out for bid right now.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
I could have tweeted that. You could have even, look, even the net could have tweeted that. Any closing comments? Y'all good?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much. All right. Any green cards for this department? Okay, all right. Thank you, thank you. Y'all good? Everybody's good over here? Y'all okay?
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to move to Planning, Zoning, and Development. Our starting point is going to be page 207.
So you may recall, we changed the name of this department, yet once again, to the Department of Development and Planning, DP.
They just don't know who they want to be, huh?
Well, we thought it was a good name. We thought it was appropriate for the functions that they do in that department. The department has a budget of $4.7 million. You can see that 54% is projected to come from the Codes and Permits Fund. We do believe that that fund is going to deplete its entire fund balance in the 17-18 fiscal year, so that it will require a subsidy from the city general fund. We're estimating that the city general fund will fund that department by $2 million. Some of that is related to the planners that were already paid from 101. Some of that is also related to ATAC that was also paid by the city general fund, but ATAC is now being moved from the police department to the Department of Development and Planning. So it kind of looks like that number's a little bit larger than what it really is. If you look at the change in their budget is increasing 11.57%, but that too is primarily related to moving 6 individuals that were previously under the police department into this department. You will see some changes in the line items as we go through, and I'm sure Carly will be able to explain those. But like I said, it's the movement of the 6 people that makes that number look a little bit larger. And in doing that, we missed some expenses that went along with those 6 people, some of their operating expenses. So we're going to work with Carly to identify that, and we're going to have a housekeeping item that we'll come back to you with at a later date to bring those operating expenses for those 6 people into this department along with the personnel.
Carly, before you get started, I don't know if you could address this for us or Mr. Duyon, but I'm trying to understand the movement of ATAC.
Yes.
As it relates to, I know they went under the PD initially for enforcement purposes and, permitting. I know we had a lot of services that would spread it out. You had to go to LUS to get permits and whatnot, but can you just touch on that just a tad bit?
I can touch on it in a couple ways, and then obviously if Mr. Duyon wants to add on to that. A couple of things, I think, both in the course of the alcohol code revisions, I worked very closely with ANC during that process, and I think there had been some feeling, I don't want to speak for the police department, of the ANC under them not being the greatest fit. In addition, we continue to look at the different permitting functions across government and trying to figure out how those can be centralized a little bit better. And since a big portion of the work of the Alcohol Noise Control Division is permitting, alcohol permits, and obviously my staff handles a whole lot of permits, that seemed to be a good alignment that we were interested in taking that on.
How are y'all going to address enforcement?
That is, should I get into kind of the bigger picture conversation
How big is that picture?
Well, there's a departmental organization, a reorganization proposed, that phase 1 of that is the establishment of a compliance division. Right now, we don't have, the alcohol enforcement, will stay for now under Sally, working with the police department, but the longer term picture would be to
So that's
work
not
with.
moving immediately?
Not moving
That
immediately,
hasn't happened.
right.
Okay. So just the permitting aspect of
Right.
it has moved, but enforcement, y'all working on it?
Right,
Okay,
sir.
all right. Now you could say what you actually wanted to say.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Good afternoon. My name is Carly Almabar, the Planning, Zoning, and Development Director, or now soon to be the Development and Planning Director. Thank you all. First, I want to recognize my staff that's here today. I have my now 5 managers. So let's see if I can find them. Sarah Gary, Development Manager, Bruce Williams, Codes Manager, Jim Parker, Zoning, soon to be hopefully Compliance Manager, Kathy, our Planning Manager, and then Sally Leger is also here, as well as Melanie Jumonville, who really runs the department, so she's here as well. In addition, you guys have already kind of gotten to, I guess, the big news. We obviously are taking on a 5th division with the alcohol noise control, and we are asking you all to look at the reorganization of the department. That happened for a couple of reasons. First, I do want to recognize, I saw Heather here. Civil service has been really good to work with. What we have proposed in the budget is that the planning division, which is currently run by Kathy, will take on some of the rezoning functions, as well as the historic preservation functions. As you all know, Kathy's division already does a lot of neighborhood planning work, so the historic preservation can fold into that work, and the rezoning, as a result of a lot of the planning work we've done over the years. You know, we've been collaborating a lot with Kathy's staff on rezoning decisions in terms of infrastructure planning and that sort of thing, and so the rezoning functions, we needed that long-term planning influence in rezoning. From there, the development division is taking on development review as well as the Board of Zoning Adjustment, and that's reflected, you'll see in the Manning tables and in the budget. And then as a result of a lot of the work that we're trying to do to keep up with compliance and code enforcement, the budget reflects the establishment of a compliance division, which Jim will lead. The housing inspectors will move out of the codes division and report to Jim. And then Jim will be responsible for working within the PZD department as well as across the government to coordinate enforcement, especially our more complex enforcement cases. So everything, you know, he'll be working with noise and junk vehicles, adjudicate properties and housing within PZD, and then outside of PZD, he's going to be working with police, fire, public works, both EQ and parking, and others to manage problem properties. I know I deal with several of you on some of the more problematic properties, and we have a lot of work to do to improve the way we handle folks with more than one violation. So we're hoping that this realignment will help us with that. And then, you know, codes other than the loss of the housing inspectors is largely unchanged. We're still working on the cross-training implementation, so it's very likely that in about next year's budget we'll come to you with additional kind of the next step of that reorg, but we aren't ready for it because our inspectors take so long to cross-train. The certifications take a long time, so we're still implementing that. So that is my introduction. Lori mentioned the additional A&C adjustments. The other thing, which I haven't even had an opportunity to tell the finance staff, but our recording costs at the courthouse went up. We were notified just a couple of weeks ago, and they went into effect Monday. So we may have to, as we kind of get a handle on what that's going to mean, we may have to, before we adopt the budget, once we analyze the impact to our budget, we may have to ask for an increase, but we're still figuring that out. It's pretty brand new.
Lori, let's speak to the pro forma for a second that you provided to us and the correlation between the 6 different, I'm sorry.
I meant to chime in on that too, if I could.
Look, I'm sorry.
No, I forgot. I think I was going to ask Lori, I think she might have a different impression. The 6 that are now charged to $299 are actually Kathy's division, whereas the 6 that are coming over, currently Kathy's division, the 6 that are coming over from ANC, I think will continue to be paid out of wherever they're paid from now, which I believe is City General Fund, but I could be wrong about that.
That's right.
So the 6 that are being paid out of $299, Kathy's division until right now had been paid out of, I believe, 101 or 401, I'm not sure, for the most part, but now they're moving in to all be in $299 because when we put some of the folks who were in the zoning division under Kathy, it all of a sudden kind of generated the conversation of why are we paying for some of these out of $299 and not others, and we felt that they could all be paid from the codes fund.
But you just got this budget thing all down, huh?
Well, we're just on page 1.
So for the purpose of our transparency, none of these, obviously, the department is showing increase in
Yes, sir.
doing more. You're taking on more, and it shows larger numbers.
Right.
And of course, the issues of salaries are in question throughout the government as
Yes,
far
sir.
as the ability to provide raises. Can the record reflect that with the transition, the numbers reflect only the movement of people into a new area? There are no increases in any of this?
There are two exceptions to that. One is that the compliance division has a line item for temporary employees. Because there are no adjustments in the compliance division, and we think the workload is going to increase. So right now, that division is just the manager and the 4 housing inspectors, but because we're effectively asking them to take on work that isn't really being done today, there's a small line item for temporary employees while we try to figure out if, how we can do it with our current resources. In addition, there is in the development division, we are asking for a vacancy to go from a planner 1 to a planner 2. So that's not a net increase in personnel, but we needed some additional technical support and transportation planning. So the quality of staff that we need to fill that vacancy needs to improve.
And are all these positions currently filled?
The planner 1 that is vacant, that is being proposed to go to a planner 2, is currently vacant.
Vacant,
Yes. And the temporary are also vacant, sorry.
obviously, yes.
Yeah.
And you'll see the estimated promotion cost under account 50300 whenever applicable.
Thank you very much. Okay, so members, if you were listening, it seems like our director may need some consideration when we get to the recording cost related to courthouse matters. So Carly, I would ask that you bring that forward at the appropriate time and let one of these fine women or gentlemen make that consideration, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Page 207. Entire 207, plan. Top of 208. William gone? Oh, we gonna roll now. Y'all wanna get something in, y'all better add it now. Oh, God. Yeah, I had to get that one. Bottom of 2A, development. Top of 209, development. Bottom of 2A, top of 209. Codes 209. Miss Abe? Oh, that's talented. Answered her own question in her head. Don't start that loud laughing. I'm telling you. Top of 210. So right here on 210 compliance, the middle of the page, this is the new?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bottom of 210, alcohol and noise control. This is the shift. And of course, I guess when we get to the police department, we'll see a bunch of zeros in the far column with a whole lot of numbers to the left. Top of 211. Those fees, that's, where they identify that in capital?
The fees for, sorry.
You had mentioned something about some recording cost
Most of
issue?
those are in the development budget. Let's see. Page,
Because we're about to go into capital, so I'm assuming we,
most of them, so there's the bottom, the very last item on page 208. So we have, so it says publication and recordation. In addition, we have some there's,
let's do one at a time if you don't
Okay.
mind. Okay, if that is the first one, members, let's go back to page 208. This is going to be the bottom of the page, the Division of Development. It's in account 2999010, item 70400. This is publication and recordation. Okay, so you were proposing for this year
so
33.1.
yes,
Okay.
because the cost, the 5310 got split between the two divisions with the reorganization. So we budgeted approximately 53 total again between the development division and the planning division. However, because we are just analyzing what the impact is, and last year, you'll note that we didn't quite, last year's final budget was about 24,000, so we didn't hit 53. So I don't know that we're ready to ask for an increase yet because we're still kind of analyzing the costs. We just wanted to put it on your radar that we may need to. Have I confused you?
Why would you do such a thing?
Because I don't want to come in at the last minute.
Are you thinking that you might have to adjust this before we done at budget?
Yes.
Or are you talking about something mid-year of next
No,
year?
before we're done at budget. Because the fees just went into effect on Monday, and we're still figuring out how the new fees are impacting our recording costs. So for instance, something that was $80 or $90 2 weeks ago is more than $200. But we're trying to understand exactly how that extrapolates and whether it's going to hit us over 53,000 or not.
Okay, all right, so you're not ready to ask for anything?
I'm not ready, I'm sorry.
All right. That's all right. So Mr. Terrio would be proud of you. Go to page 257. All right, so on 257, we're looking at line item number 30. Line item number 33. On page 258, we're looking at line item number 48. And if you want to mark them, I'll give you a little time to review. Line item number 49. Line item number 53. Line item 64. And line item number 65. On page 260, we're looking at line item number 139. So I'll give you a little time to review those numbers. Okay, seeing no questions, let's move to page 286. And you're gonna see in the middle of the page, development and planning, and to the top of 287. Okay, let's move to 312, the Manning table. Towards the bottom of the page, starting with planning. Development. Codes, compliance, and alcohol and noise.
If I can say that I believe the development planning manager title will probably be changed to compliance manager, but we're still working on that with civil service. I don't know when that triggers for you all.
Okay. Don't seem to have any questions for you.
Thank you.
You covered it all in the beginning, huh?
I hoped to.
Madam Clerk, are there any green cards for this department? Right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Next, we're going to move to adult corrections. We're going to be starting off on 126.
I do have a chart for this.
Just 1 second, Lauren.
Sure.
Okay.
The chart you see here covers the accounts that are under the warden's control. There are some areas of money that is covered under our Public Works Department. So under the warden's control is a budget of $4.4 million that does not count capital outlay. Of that amount of money, 2.2 comes from the correctional center millage, and $2 million comes from the courthouse complex millage. You'll see the little notes down in the bottom. Another $1.4 million is in capital outlay under the Public Works Department, and another $714,000 is in the operating accounts under the Public Works Department. And that's because these millages are also used to pay the electric bill, the other utilities, and those type operational needs of the jail. The Correctional Center has lowered its budget for the past 4 years in a row. In 2015, it was budgeted at $5 million. This proposed budget is $4.4 million. And of course, we do not have salaries coming from this millage because the jail is operated by the sheriff.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Any opening thoughts, comments, requests, updates, needs?
I'm just really proud to represent the people that work for us. They do better and more with less, and it's just shocking the amount of good work that comes out of there. And I'm just, like I said, really proud to stand here today to tell you that there's a lot of less and a lot of decreased things in this budget. And we're real proud. Paula Smith is here. She does a tremendous job for us. And thank y'all for the support.
And if you don't mind, just for our record, my
Oh, I'm
clerk already
sorry.
said-
Kathy Fontenot, Warden, Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office.
And this gentleman with you.
Grayson Lacombe, CFO, Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office.
Thank you all very much. Okay, we're gonna start on 126 and we're gonna end on 126, right in the middle of the page, adult corrections. Okay, we're gonna go to 269, look at some capital. Get you a breakdown of exactly what's going on. See right to the middle of the page there. No questions, double back to 262. The Correctional Center Fund. Which I'm having trouble finding. Might have a typo on my, yeah. It might be 261. Look like we got a typo.
Okay, that 262 is referring to the fund name. I think everything you're looking for is you're going to see on on page 269. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we looked at that. Okay, when I saw 262, it looked like a page number.
I'm with you. I went back too.
Huh?
I'm with you. I went back too.
You went back too, huh? You see that? Good to be with me right now, huh, Lori? Told y'all this is a fun time of year. Yeah, really, huh? As indicated, there's no manning tables in adult corrections. That's all under the sheriff himself. So if there are no questions as it relates to the fund in which you saw in capital and operational, we could release these fine people. Yeah. Are there any green cards for the adult corrections, Madam Clerk? Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. And thanks to Lori and her team. We've really been improving, I think, our meetings with LCG and trying to do the best we can. Thank you.
Great. Okay, we now will move to informational services.
I have a chart for them also.
We're going to be starting on page 149. You got a chart available that Ms. Lori is going to reference.
The budget for IS&T is $5.8 million. They are not requesting any change in personnel in this budget. It's pretty much a standstill budget. Last year's budget was $5.8 million also, so you'll see some slight changes, ups and downs through the line items, but Tanya, I'm sure, will be prepared to discuss those. Out of that, 82% is coming from the city general fund, 13% from the parish general fund. There's a small amount estimated to come from the printing fund, which will not go away overnight. You know, that's going to hang around a little while. And there's a small amount, not even enough to register a percent, that's coming from the central vehicle maintenance fund, and that's for the software maintenance for the central garage.
Ms. T?
Yes, Tanya Costraport, Chief Information Officer, and I came with two of my colleagues, Michelle Rue, the ERP Manager, Kelly Leger, the Printing and Communications Supervisor, and Ryan Meir, Infrastructure Manager. We got very aggressive, I guess, in the preparing of the budget. We were very energetic that day. So we put a lot of capital in here, and we have a lot of projects we plan on doing. Hopefully we keep that momentum. Some of the projects, just to mention, are the 311 call center, the revamping of the website, quality of life software, which will affect pretty much all the departments. We plan on expanding the credit card usage. We want more online capabilities. And those are just some of those, some more GIS applications, some more web apps, and so forth. I think I answered a lot of questions earlier today, but I'm welcome to any questions you have.
Okay. Well, let's see how we do. We're going to start on page 149. Top of page, records management.